When Kamala Khan, Iman Vellani, Monica Rambeau, Lashana Lynch, and Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, simultaneously touch mysterious glowing objects, they become entangled. So they switch every time they use their super abilities. With Dar-Benn, Zawe Ashton, targeting places Captain Marvel calls home, these three women have to come together to stop her. The Marvels was a very sloppy, bizarre, and disappointing movie, because there were a lot of inconsistencies and flaws within the story that end up having disappointing outcomes. So, in the end, the movie had an antagonist that was so forgettable, the plot was so bland and had no real significance, and worst of all, there were really no stakes at all to make the audience care for the characters or events that were happening. The movie opens up with Dar-Benn, searching for the two bangles we first saw in Miss Marvel. After successfully finding one of these bangles, she searches for the other one furiously. We then cut to Kamala Khan doodling away to her favorite superhero, Captain Marvel. This opening was very weak and poorly written. Like what I've said in my other reviews of this matter, it does not introduce the antagonist well. Why is she searching for these bangles? What are her motives? Why will she be a threat? Sure, not everything has to be answered within the first introduction of our antagonist, let alone the first 10 minutes. But we do have to get a sense of these answers when the antagonist is introduced. Otherwise, they are just a blank character taking up screen time, and can result with the audience not caring for this character, nor the inevitable journey they will put our protagonist in. A better opening would have been Captain Marvel's wrongdoings in the planet Hala, because it is what moves the story forward. It's what would motivate the villain to, well, act that way. Not to mention it being one of, if not, the key defining detail that prevents Captain Marvel from seeing Monica after such a long time, causing conflict between them. Using a time jump, which I do not like in various situations, where glowing mysterious warps are scattered throughout the galaxy, Captain Marvel continues investigating them while Monica also investigates, entangling these characters. Of course, in itself, this opening still provides several flaws. However, I'd say it still poses a better opening and hook than the generic and insignificant opening the Marvels had, because we'd have established not only how Hala operates and its destruction, but the essential catalyst within two of the three main characters that will be one of the main reasons that propels the thematic message of the movie.
That's not how family works.
But more on that later. Going back to the movie, Captain Marvel goes to Tarnax, where we see that Dar-Benn is to aid in the relocation of the Skrulls, as she will take their air for her planet. Her planet is on the brink of death. Due to a civil war, the air is polluted and is no longer breathable. The sun is dying, etc. So Dar-Benn goes out to planets, taking their resources to save her own. However, these actions don't make any sense whatsoever. Why not just relocate to a better planet altogether? She also mentions that she's out of time, but with no real indication or evidence of this actually happening besides dialogue said between these characters. Therefore, the stakes on her side don't seem real. It's all just talk. So her threats and actions come across as foolish instead of cynical.
Politics rose up to fill the void. The civil war has polluted our skies. My people cannot breathe. Our sun is dying. Hala is out of time.
Worst of all, after taking some resources, we never cut back to the planets to see the aftermath of the consequences of these actions. Essentially, not giving the audience a reason to dislike Dar-Benn's actions or giving weight to those actions, making it feel insignificant. Another insignificant aspect in the movie is the characters' drama between them. It doesn't serve in the overall theme, nor does it really hinder the characters. It only adds a small level of drama that seems more childish than anything, especially given how easily avoidable and how easily resolved it was in the end. Captain Marvel wants to talk to Monica, but Monica gives her the silent treatment on account of her 30 years of being ghosted. Captain Marvel couldn't return to Earth for Monica because of the complications on Hala created by her. But the problem is that for 30 years Captain Marvel couldn't figure out how to solve her problems, only for that problem to be resolved so easily at the end. Worst of all, when the two women have to band together, there isn't anything hindering them from achieving their goals besides them switching. They do have a falling out and drama, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't cause any consequences, nor does it truly matter because, again, it was solved easily. Which brings me to my next point, impactfulness. The essential destruction of Tarnax's planet, although a bit impactful, could have been better. How? By showing more Skrulls suffer. by having their pain be the front of the scene instead of the characters trying to save them. Basically, have the characters try to save them, but don't let it be the main focus of the scene. Why? Because not only would we get to see way more destruction and death, we understand the protagonist's emotions afterwards. Yes, you can have Kamala rescue the scrolls in this scene, but don't let it be the forefront of it. Let the main aspect of the scene be the destruction of the scrolls and the suffering of its people, which was technically caused by Captain Marvel. So that afterwards, on the ship, not only does Kamala rethink her views on Captain Marvel slightly, but we see how this event impacts Captain Marvel and the group. Kamala can get mad for the very first time, not understanding the struggles of what it means to be a hero, creating not only this tension/drama, but also helps build up their relationship, while altogether bringing together this sort of thematic message they were trying to go for, as we see how this impacts Captain Marvel. Afterwards in the ship, everything that happened beforehand just gets brushed away rather quickly, not allowing these characters to fully take these events in and transform them, understand from it, and grow. I say this because this problem they had was resolved easily and never mentioned again. Because of this, it loses any impactfulness it had because it doesn't seem to help with our protagonist's spiritual journey. Instead, have this emotion play out throughout the movie. Have it be a recurring theme of the movie. Let it be present in every character. That way we can follow the heroes better as it holds significance. And for that impact to remain impactful, what comes after should matter. I only say that because of not only how easy some problems are solved, but because of how the movie handled those survivors. They just called up Valkyrie and asked if she could take them, solving this issue quickly, not coming back to the situation afterwards. So again, this scene could have been better, but instead it held no real significance whatsoever, losing any impact it had. I won't get much in depth with the switching, but I was extremely confused on how it all worked because of the several inconsistencies it had or showed. I will just say that throughout the movie, it never really showed how much the stakes were high because of this conflict. Instead, it was just a hurdle jumped rather easily, lowering down the stakes. Dar-Benn's plans seemed petty and were so lame that they really had no stakes at all. Like I mentioned before, since we never cut back to these planets to see the aftermath of Dar-Benn's actions, it also diminishes the stakes that would have been put there by Dar-Benn. It wasn't until she wanted to take the sun where the stakes finally started to rise once again. But at this point the audience became uninterested, bored, and quite frankly tired because throughout the movie there wasn't much hindering the characters to have a truly good third act. The stakes weren't as high as it could be to make the audience be at the edge of their seat, so to speak. Instead, we just watched blankly at the screen, watching it unfold, especially when it was after this scene. The subplot with Fury in the ship also didn't benefit the story, nor did it go anywhere. All it was just a cheap setup and payoff that came across as lazy writing. In the end, this movie was pretty bad on all fronts. Though I will say, the fight choreography in general was pretty decent.
Hold that thought.
In terms of acting, besides Kamala, who actually seemed like she was enjoying herself, though they really made her character a bit weird when it came to her fascination towards Captain Marvel, it seemed rather bland and uninspiring. Overall, The Marvels was a movie where you can really see bad writing. It had poor execution and acting that made the movie feel not worth the money. The story didn't hold its own significance within the universe, nor was it a story worth watching with all of its inconsistencies, unrealistic stakes, and drama. All I can say is that whatever happens next should be better than this movie.